We talk a lot about mindfulness. We also talk a lot about systems, productivity, and execution. But rarely do we talk about what happens when these two worlds collide. Because let's be honest, listeners, some people use mindfulness to slow down and feel more present. Others secretly use it to avoid hard decisions. And on the other side, systems and models promise clarity and progress, but they can also turn into another form of control or pressure. Welcome to the Mindful Journey podcast, listeners. I'm your host, Sana, and today's conversation lives exactly right in that tension. My guest is Nicholas Clapham, founder of Safe and Sound Coaching. He works with entrepreneurs who feel stuck in cycles of self sabotage, overthinking, and inconsistency. His work centers around his precise goal setting model and the fives goal alignment course, which are built to help people stop spinning and start executing. And let me tell you, listeners, what I appreciate about Nicholas is that he doesn't position structure and mindfulness as opposites, not colliding. He challenges people to use both intentionally without hiding behind either. We'll definitely explore that in the conversation. But listeners, this episode is not about quick fixes, quick solutions. It is about honest self awareness, disciplined action, and where inner calm actually supports outer progress and chaos as well. So, Nicholas, welcome to the Mindful Journey, and I'm really, really honored to have you here with us.
Hi, Sana. Thank you very, very much for having me on the show.
Okay, Nicholas, let's first begin. With because you work with entrepreneurs. I mean, they are often high performers on paper, but
Mm.
internally they feel stuck or scattered. So from your experience, where exactly do you usually see the disconnect happening, between mindset and execution?
For me, the disconnect seems to be very much in not so much even the execution. It comes down to the defining of what it is they want to achieve in the first place. And usually the goal they want to achieve in and of itself, there's nothing wrong with it as such, but there's a few little details in how they consider it that they miss. And that then leads to internal barriers. And it's actually, in some ways, it's, you know, jumping straight to it. That's the place where the mindfulness and the structure meet, because it's if people are applying mindfulness on its own, you get some stagnation. But if you're going with just a goal setting model, then you can very fast end up in burnout and anxiety.
Yeah.
So it's about finding that midpoint. And for me, actually, one of the core phases of the model is impact. And impact is about what will be the impact of achieving your goal, but also in a positive way, but also what will be the negative impact of achieving your goal. And that's a step that so many people miss out on. So they get very mindful, focusing on all the positive aspects of the goal that they want to achieve, and from their present state to their desired state. But if they haven't actively brought into their conscious awareness what they fear could be the negative effect of achieving their goal, straight away you start to get an internal stagnation and internal blocks and internal barriers. And that's where the execution starts to fall down.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense, Nicholas. And when you know, I was reading the intro, and this particular word kind of it may sound harsh, like self sabotage.
Yeah, absolutely.
What does it actually look like in daily behavior? Like,
So I think there's a lot of words that we use day to day to try and gloss over this idea of self sabotage. One of those words is procrastination, because we know what we want to achieve. We know the positive effect it will have on our personal life. We know the positive effect it can have on many, many other people if we're in a service based idea for our entrepreneurship, whatever it might be. And we end up stopping ourselves from helping all those people. And at the same time as doing that, we usually have a very good idea of what it is we're supposed to be doing. It might be the tasks which we're not so confident about or not so happy to do, but those are the most important things to allow us to then be in a position to help more people. And so then if there's those tasks that are actually really vitally important and we're just not doing them and not doing them and not doing them, that's what I would class as self-sabotage.
Hmm. I mean, what you're saying is that the problem often isn't laziness or lack of ambition. Like it's unresolved tension between, what someone says they want and what they feel safe pursuing.
Exactly. And it's more than that as well. It actually comes down to fears. And there's a wonderful book by Susan Jeffers called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Are you familiar with that at all?
And I'm afraid I haven't heard about it.
No, it's an absolutely astounding book. I first read it when I was about 16 years old,
Oh,
and
okay.
it was given to me as a gift from a friend who's absolutely expert in a lot of sort of mental coaching things.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that book pointed out is that almost every single fear comes back to the same thing, which is a sentence, which is, I can't handle it if dot, dot, dot. And most fears, people haven't figured out what the dot, dot, dot is. And that's actually, again, it's a time where that mindful consideration, taking the time to think through, what is that dot, dot, dot? Because usually when we fill it in and then ask ourselves the question, is this a true statement? 9 times out of 10, we find out that it's not true. And
Mm.
actually, the fear that we've been having was a fear of the thing that we hadn't defined. And so that's, again, it's a place where that mindfulness is so, so important to allow ourselves to be present and to sit with those feelings and understand what they're really about.
And it's unfortunate that and let me tell you, Nicholas, like my inner self, not self, but my inner critique kind of actually told me, oh, it's shameful that you didn't come across this book. But then it's okay, it's fine. I can, and thank you for sharing because
Mhm.
I actually need to definitely you know explore this because fear is something that has many a times driven um, my decisions or actions, or maybe
Absolutely. Yeah.
have me procrastinate because it's kind of a protection that my brain is
Yes,
trying.
absolutely. It's protection. And that's the thing. We should never feel guilty about our subconscious trying to protect us from something. That's its job. It's supposed to do that. It's when those protections start keeping us stagnant and stopping us from being able to react in a rational way around it that then we actually have to just to start to gently question it and to redefine certain things.
Yeah, true, true.
You know, it's like saying to a child, you shouldn't be afraid of the barking dog,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
Well, maybe the child should be afraid of the barking dog, but you need to go and introduce them and explain to them why this particular barking dog isn't a problem. Oh, because their tail's wagging and they're happy and they're happy to see you,
exactly.
you know? So it's the same with our subconscious. Our subconscious is there warning us of a problem that it doesn't have enough information to explain and to categorize as safe. So we should never feel bad about our fears stopping us from doing things, as long as we are able to then take a step back and say, hang on a second, what is this really about?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think not dismissing, like people thinking fear as good or bad, but I think there are some good fear, there is a bad fear,
Yes,
uh,
absolutely.
not fear, but that carefulness that
Yeah, caution,
taking on
caution,
and
exactly
caution.
that.
Caution, you got the word, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so it protects us, it keeps us safe, and sometimes safety is a benefit, sometimes it's a bit of a negative, and we have to find what is our balance between the two.
Yeah.
So, could I ask you, do you have a goal at the moment for yourself that you've really got in mind?
It's not exactly good. It's a purpose for me. It's
Okay.
because I mean, humans can have many purposes, but right now,
Absolutely, yeah.
something that I have taken on as a purpose for me is and kind of that is the most important reason behind taking a step back in my career and explore other ways of like podcasting, full time podcasting, or
Yeah.
working in the creative field is there have been some very, I mean, huge critical personal issues which have been, kind of um, disturbing my parents for a very long time, and I feel that I have to, I need to perform a very, not perform, but at least perform my duties, my responsibilities, so that I can at least make them like make like have them at peace, and I can also be at peace that okay, they are good, I'm good, so now I can
Okay.
move into another phase of my career, maybe in my life.
Right. So, if you were to define your purpose in one sentence, what would it be?
If you are enjoying the mindful journey, take 2 seconds to follow or subscribe wherever you are listening. It helps the show reach more people who need a softer, steadier space to land. And if he can leave a quick review, it seriously make a difference. Now, let's get back to the conversation. Make my parents in peace, like, help them be at peace. Right.
Okay. So to help your parents be at peace. Okay. So that's actually a very, very good way to set that. And this can be framed as a goal. We can view it as a purpose. We can combine the two as a concept. And it's something that you want to achieve rather than something you're trying to avoid, which is a fantastic starting point. It's framed in the positive. Okay. So what would you need to have as resources to be able to do that?
Time and flexibility.
Time and flexibility. And how would you get more time and more flexibility?
Um, I mean, by first of all, my career, my job role has been very specifically, very demanding because I couldn't devote that time um
Right.
when it was needed, and that guilt had been kind of eating me from within for a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So per se for me right now, it's also kind of a kind of an exercise to you know have that guilt kind of
O-
reduce that guilt.
Okay. So before your work put you in a situation where you didn't have the freedom to do what you needed to do, and you're starting to move into a direction where you're starting to have a bit more flexibility in your time already.
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely. So fantastic. So you're starting to get those resources accumulated. What
Exactly.
about emotional resources? What emotional resources do you think you'd need to achieve this purpose?
Yeah, that's a very good of question because right now what I'm seeing in the world is, it's kind of challenging to have someone whom you can trust, and that good friend to whom you can go and share things and without any judgment or frustration. You can have a constructive criticism or discussion. I mean, maybe something that I've done wrong, or maybe something wrong has been done in the past. Maybe it's a decision or
Yeah.
uh, something else. But at least, I can get some good guidance or support that,
Absolutely.
whatever you are
Yeah.
doing, think
Okay.
about it, analyze it, and then do it.
Okay. And if you would had already achieved this purpose, how would you know you'd achieved it?
I mean, I would have seen, and how my parents are behaving every day, how they're talking with me, how they're, you know, communicating with each other. Because right now I'm seeing a lot of friction and tension in the way they are, doing their daily activities, and that is something kind of, um, reduces my peace within. That is
Yeah,
something, you know,
absolutely.
drives me.
Yeah.
You have
So
to do.
is
Mhm.
that something that you are in control of, or is that something that they have to take ownership of?
I mean, they have to. They have to. However, it's a tough balance to achieve because um, Nicholas, there comes a generational difference as well. They
Absolutely.
may not be familiar with, something called as mindfulness or peace. They think these are all normal. But what I feel is these are not normal. You have to kind of, work towards seeking a balance because just for that particular pending thing, you cannot
Yes.
intentionally destroy your peace.
Yeah. So, which parts of this would you be in control of?
Helping them to get familiar with that,
Yeah. So by
the-
sharing the stuff that you've learned with them.
exactly.
Fantastic. Okay. And they're receptive to hearing that?
They are. My mother is, but my father,
That's so.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. Yeah. Is so often the case that it's one side versus the other side, and
Yeah.
it's very, very normal for it to be that way. So, if you are able to communicate to your mother effectively these things, then you've done your part of the task, yes?
Yeah, yeah,
So then effectively you've fulfilled your purpose at that point.
yeah.
Yeah. So then the next question for me is this, which is if you've achieved this purpose, what would be the result of it? What would happen?
I mean, if this is achieved, then I can embark on that path which I had been longing for, a very long time. That I actually, I had maybe envisioned or I dreamt, not dreamt, but I thought about it. I have been thinking about that for a long time and it involves a bit of risk. However, that is something that I've already communicated with my parents. And once again, it's kind of a tough kind of a task to convince my father, but then something that I've very openly shared with my parents, which I couldn't
Yes.
do 10, 15 years back. So
Absolutely. Yeah. It's again, it's so much the case.
yeah, until and unless I have that peace of mind,
Mm,
I don't think I can take that risk right now.
yeah. So what would be the negative impact or the negative result of achieving this purpose?
Having, creating that distance between me and my family, my parents.
Ah, so there's the potential for some distance to happen there.
Yeah, that fear that, they wouldn't accept it and they'll stop talking to me, they'll lose trust within me and all that. The
Yeah.
repetition.
Have you considered the possibility of having a conversation with them about that fear that you have there?
I did have many a times with my mother. I tried with my father, but uh, what I also kind of empathize with him is he's right now not in that state of mind to accept this right now or even be aware about it because right now those pending tasks which could have been resolved in the past, they are of too much importance right now, kind of very deciding ones. So which because right now I'm in a role which is also kind of a caregiving role. uh,
Yes.
they're old and um so I think I need to kind of be in that space where I shouldn't force everything. Yeah. Because I absolutely empathize with my father. Maybe he's right now in not that state of mind. So let me kind of be in sync with his space. And then when I see the right time, I can still talk to him or have a conversation with him in the way that he understands it. Maybe not from my POV, but at least from his POV.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a very interesting way to look at it. So when do you want to have achieved this purpose by? What's your sort of time frame on it?
Within the next 2 years.
Within the next 2 years. Okay, so you've got a well-defined thing, and you've got steps you can take between now and then to start moving things in that direction?
It's moving, but then life. It's life. I mean, it's very unpredictable, but I think and I believe that is something which is not in my hands. But at least it's in my hands that I take actions
Yes.
wherever I feel with my experience and whatever I'm learning. I think I can apply them and have an understanding. Okay, this is the right time. This is maybe not the right action to take. So,
Yeah.
and still, I have that time frame still intact. Like I have a target that I need to get this on in those 2 years.
Okay, so you've set a really clear, definite, like defined limit on that, where
Yeah.
you've got an idea of, okay, at this point, some harder decisions might have to be made.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, and if your plan that you're putting into place at the moment to achieve this purpose isn't
Mm-hmm.
working, if you're not getting closer to the result that you want to get from it, what would be the first thing that you would change in your approach?
Hmm. That's exactly, kind of something that I really feel anxious about that. If this doesn't happen, then what exactly should I do?
Yeah.
Oh,
So, because it seems like communication with your parents is actually a big part of this, yes?
yes. Yes.
So, if the method of communicating isn't translating,
Mm.
then it seems to me that the probable best course forward at that point is to try and communicate in a slightly different way.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for a strategy, you could, for example, just take the time to learn a different form of communication,
Okay.
because there are courses and things which exist to allow you to communicate in a slightly different way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, one that's a fantastic system out there which exists is nonviolent communication. Are you familiar with that?
I am familiar there.
Yeah. So, for example, you can really lean into applying nonviolent communication to the situation.
Hmm. Like observation and then
Yeah.
feelings and then maybe
Yeah. And the
more in
needs
a
and the
compassion.
request. Yeah. Absolutely. Because obviously, with nonviolent communication, for example, we can approach that in two ways. We can approach it from the perspective of ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and how we communicate to the other person as we make our requests, or we can listen to what they're saying and filter it through that system ourselves and say, okay, what is it that they are seeing? What is it that they are feeling as a result? Which of their needs are we not meeting? And what would they want us to do differently? And we can coach the person we're talking to through that process to get from them a statement that is actually a case where they feel heard.
Mm. No,
You know, so it's just taking it a slightly different angle, effectively.
exactly. And that's exactly what I'm still learning because um what I understand, what I've realized is um my father was maybe in in my position, like in that particular age bracket. Maybe he didn't have even the right resources or the right people or the right channel or
Absolutely. Yeah.
medium to seek help or um uh, talk with anyone. Maybe he
Yes.
had to figure everything out on his own. So
Yeah.
there's no point of shifting the blame or reprimanding him that why did he do this? Why did you take that decision? It's of no use.
Absolutely.
It's of no use. So
Yeah. So I think one thing that's a very important message which goes along with this is that very often when we're dealing with parents or people that have been there before us and they have some kind of negative response to something that we want to do ourselves in the future, or where they have doubts in our ability to do that,
mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily that they doubt us, it's that they doubt that they would be able to do it if they were in your shoes.
Yes.
So it's the fear that they would have in that situation being
Mm.
projected onto you. So it's their fear, it's not yours. You are not responsible for their fear in that situation, but you can soothe that fear by giving them the awareness of saying, look, I know that this part of it is scary and this is what I'm doing to learn about it. Or you can ask the question as well, if you were in my shoes doing this, what would you find most scary about it? Because again, it's just finding information. And once we find those bits of information and we can sit with it and spend some time working around it in our own psyche, we can get to a point where we free ourselves to then take
Mm.
the steps forward.
Yeah. Yeah. That absolutely makes sense. Absolutely makes sense, Nicholas. And that is something that I'm learning every day. I'm trying because it can be hard, sometimes uh, coupled with the you know pressure of work and doing everything, handling so many things at the same time. It can
Yes.
be a bit challenging to hold your horses, basically.
Yes, absolutely, it can be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, what we've just talked through is we followed the structure of the precise model in our conversation, discussing this purpose for you. And this is all it has to be. It doesn't have to be more than this. It doesn't have to be a hard line structure, but it
Mm.
just gives us a certain approach to each of the phases and saying, okay, if we can get all of these things lined up, then we have a good idea of where we're going. And that can remove a lot of the barriers for us for moving forward. And it can also help us to identify what other barriers are affecting us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my fives course, which is significantly longer and has a lot more parts in it, is all about, rather than changing our goal if it's difficult, it's about making sure that we ourselves are aligned with our goal. So the classic example I give for this is that quite often people want to lose weight, for example,
Yeah.
and they set their goal is to lose weight,
Mm-hmm.
and they start out with a plan and the plan's not working. And so they change the goal to lose less weight or just to eat healthily, whatever it might be. They change the goal. Whereas instead, a better option is sometimes just to say, okay, the goal itself is okay. We need to align ourselves with the goal. And that alignment can be systematically approached. But again, it requires that awareness of where we are right now and
Yeah.
being present with ourselves to be honest about what's actually happening in each of the categories that are in the five system.
Hmm. It's like, the system and the present circumstances of the scenario is in sync. Like, we have
Absolutely.
to like, seek that balance somewhere between these two worlds.
Yeah. The way we have lived is
Hmm.
what has led us to where we are.
Yeah.
So if we want to continue where we are, we have to continue living the way we have lived. But if we want to move on to something differently, then we have to make some alignment changes. So it falls into five categories, but the five categories are: we have to make sure that our environment is aligned with where we want to go, that our skills and capabilities are there, that our behaviors are in alignment with where we want to go. If we're wanting to lose weight, using the classic example, if we go to McDonald's for lunch every day, we're not going to lose weight.
Yeah.
And we have to then align our beliefs and values with where we want to go. And we have to align our identity, who we believe we are. Do we believe that we are someone who is going to achieve this? And if not, who is the person that easily achieves this, and how can we become that person?
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think environment, like especially personally for me, Nicholas, environment is such a huge factor here because I've personally realized this that, like if I get a good environment, and it's not just only people, but the location, the kind of energy that I'm in, that
It's
absolutely affects my focus, my work, my productivity per se.
absolutely, yes. In learning a bit about how to generate your own energy, learning how to set a barrier against the negative energy that comes in from the surrounding, and learning how to maintain that is, again, it's a skill set, and it's something which takes a lot of self-awareness, a lot of patience to develop it, and again, a lot of kindness to yourself for the times when you don't quite get it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, right now it's a privilege that, if you're able to change your environments or maybe the locations. So I believe that, instead of getting into that vicious loop of, blaming environment or people, let's try to, you know,
And
create an environment.
environment can be just tiny little changes sometimes. It can be something as simple as rearranging a room. It can be something as simple as changing the things that are in your fridge. It can be something as simple as making sure that for 5 minutes in the day, you stop off and sit on a bench in a park on the way home to give yourself those 5 minutes of clarity and focus, whatever it might be. The little changes add up.
It does.
Yeah.
It do.
Same with like cleaning. Cleaning a room can make a huge difference.
Yes, it can.
Yeah.
It does. It
Yeah.
does.
And then for the behaviors, it's a similar sort of thing. I think it sounds like you've already done one of those things, because one of the behaviors you had before was a job that I think, from what you were saying, was not really ideal. And so you've moved into a different direction with that.
Yeah,
So already you're taking the steps of getting your life in alignment with your purpose.
I am. I am.
Yeah.
Still a long way to go, but at least, sometimes, I have to, kind of pat myself, on my back that, okay, at least you're taking a baby step. It's okay.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. The little steps add up, the big steps add up, and over time it becomes inevitable. And that's one of my favorite words, inevitable. That when you decide that you're going to do something, it becomes inevitable.
Mm, beautiful. That's beautiful. Um, Nicholas, this has been such a kind of a unique conversation because I don't think this was an interview or a simple conversation. I think I'm very happy that our listeners got maybe a glimpse of how exactly it looks like.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and I think that's exactly what I personally would also like to make sure that our listeners are getting the gift of it. And for further, like if they have their own thoughts and opinions, and if they would like to connect
Absolutely.
with you, what would be the easiest way?
The easiest way to connect with me is through my website, which is safeandsoundcoaching.com. Through that website, we've got links to the various courses and things which I have on there. At the moment, we are only running the precise goal setting and the 5 future. But attached to that, we have a community. So people who've gone through the goal setting process get automatic lifetime access to a community where they get personalized support if they are running into issues with how they set a goal, or they're not fully understanding the process, where I'm active on there, able to guide people through things.
Super. Listeners, what I'm going to do is have all the links and details in the show notes or the podcast description. So refer to them attached along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform. And let me see if I can, summarize. Like I believe listeners, today's conversation, it reminds us that mindfulness is not about staying still, and systems are not about forcing movement. When that balance is there, or when used well, I believe mindfulness tells us the truth about what's happening inside. And systems help us act, take action on that truth without the chaos. Nicholas, thank you so much. I mean, such an important and very, very interesting conversation we had today. Thank you.
Absolutely. It was lovely talking with you, Sana.
And to all the listeners of this episode, stirred something uncomfortable or clarifying, sit with that. It's okay, it's fine. Not to analyze endlessly, but to ask yourself one honest question: what small action would align with what I already know? Until next time, this is The Mindful Journey, and I'm your host, Sana, signing off. Thank you.